John Brennan,
Here.
Al Broad,
Here.
Pat Brown,
Here.
Andy Bruiswicks, not here. Terry Burrell,
Present.
Joe Foss,
Here.
Larry Gordon,
Present.
Aaron Hall,
Present.
Frank Kennis, not here. Brad Loosely,
Present.
Betty Ann McKinnon,
Present.
Kevin Marriott,
Present.
Nettie McEwen,
Here.
Mark McGill,
Here.
Dan McMillan,
Present.
Steve Miller,
Present.
Frank Nemchek,
Here.
Lori Scott,
Here.
Mike Stark,
Present.
and Jerry Westgate.
Present.
Thank you.
Frank Kennis has just entered the building.
Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, Ashley. We do have a quorum, so I guess we can proceed. Can I have a mover and a seconder that the Board of Directors accepts the agenda for the meeting as presented? Natty and Betty Ann. Are there any opposed? Seeing none, the motion's carried. It's requested that each director declare a conflict of interest at the appropriate time on any item within this agenda, in that a director may have a pecuniary interest. Can I have a mover and a seconder on item 4 that the Board of Directors acknowledges the General Manager's report dated October the 15th, 2020, and further direct staff to provide correspondence to Lambton County advising that additional directives from the province forthcoming this fall are necessary for the proposed community information session, and that the scheduling be delayed until the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks outlines the coming legislative and regulatory changes. And seconded by Steve Miller. Are there any opposed? Brad, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a question. Do we expect that in within a reasonable time, Brian, or is there some kind of time that we're hoping to get this?
We both chair and vice chair, Joe and Larry, as well as myself, attended Conservation Ontario Council meeting, in which the minister specifically outlined that he anticipates putting forth both legislative and regulatory changes before the House rises, so before Christmas. I have to admit that I'll be very surprised if that happens, but that's what the minister committed to.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns? I don't see any. Is there anyone opposed? Okay, go ahead, Mike. You're opposed?
No. I have a question. In light of our extensive discussion with respect to priorities and mandates, would we, and assuming that the minister brings down some regulatory changes, would we expect a report from staff as to how our suggestions on mandates dovetail with whatever comes out of the ministry?
Brian, do you want to address that?
Absolutely, we will certainly prepare that. I think at this point, based on what we've been given as the updated core mandate line items, there is a good possibility for some changes, and I really have no idea what those are going to be at this point. But we will certainly break it down and present it to the board. Maybe even that's more important prior to the community information session after the first of the year, assuming we get something from the ministry in this sitting of the House.
Yes, because it has direct implications to the budget in terms of identifying, or our previous discussion, that related to identifying what we saw as our core mandates / ancillary opportunities and how that relates to the budget. So I would like to know, whatever comes down from the ministry, how our overall changes that we talked about would be compatible with that. So I would appreciate a report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other questions? Okay, go ahead, Larry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Having sat in on the Conservation Ontario meeting, I can offer my personal observation that the minister would make a good poker player. That we were very appreciative that we finally had an opportunity to hear from him directly through Zoom, albeit, but he certainly did not seem to waver from his intention to make both regulatory and legislative changes as they apply to conservation authorities in Ontario. And having said that, I appreciate what Councillor Stark is saying, that whatever comes from that will certainly impact us budget-wise. We all recall that not too many months ago, we were caught in midstream after our budget was set with a fairly significant cut. I couldn't sense in the reason addressed by the minister whether we're going to be in that same predicament again. I can only hope that we learned from that experience and that earlier signals from the ministry staff indicate that they understand the situation that conservation authorities were in mid-budget and that we don't have to go down that path again. But I understand that I'll look forward to Brian's report once we finally get the ministers and the legislature's direction. It will be a tall order for not only St. Clair region, but every conservation authority in Ontario. And my crystal ball doesn't work any better than anyone else's, unfortunately, on this. But the minister certainly didn't give us reason to be downcast coming out of his brief address that morning, but he did not waver from the indication that changes are coming. Thank you.
Thank you. Lori, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm wondering, Brian, knowing how we got caught in the middle before, hearing that we have a stone-faced person addressing you guys and you're not getting any signs of, higher increases, lower increases, or where we're going. Did you put a bit of a contingency into the budget to help prepare if we have to cut or take out? Is there some sort of maybe a cushion or something that you thought about as we were going through with this?
No, not at all. We've kept it very tight to try and maintain, as limited an increase as possible. We'll certainly get into that with the next motion, but we have not read that in the budget. We're very fortunate to have some reserves in place. They're operating reserves, but we've been tapping into those over the last couple of years. That's not something I want to be doing, but we're fortunate that there are some funds there if there is a change of funding after the budget's been passed.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Is there any other comments, questions? Seeing none, is there anyone opposed? The motion's carried. Thank you. Item number 5, can I have a mover and a seconder that the Board of Directors acknowledges the 2021 preliminary budget of $9,640,120 with the proposed municipal general levy of $1,129,926, and further that this preliminary budget be circulated to the member municipalities for information and input based on our budget review process. Mover and a seconder, please. Gary Burrow, seconder Betty Ann McKinnon. Questions? Did you have an overview, Brian, that you wanted to present, or did you want to just?
We've talked about this at length, and I certainly I don't want to waste the members' time if there's because we could go line by line, et cetera, and provide it as information. Most of you have seen this document now, maybe for 15 plus years, because it really hasn't changed in its content very much. Tracy has put in some more information for everyone. There certainly is, and I think the things that I'm going to ask Tracy to break down is what the increase or what the content of the increase is. It is in particular, things that we've already approved as far as asset management and Highland Glen boat launch study. And then there are additional increases to that are broken down specifically. So understanding all of that, I guess my question would be, are there any questions of the members?
Okay, I will take questions. Okay, Mike, go ahead.
One quick question, and it's more of a format, and maybe somebody can explain to me. When I look at, I'm looking at page 9. If I look at the columns, they're labeled last year 2019-06-30, budget 2020-06-30, and proposed budget 2021-12-31. Does the 2019-06-30, does that represent the budget numbers for the whole year, or what is that column?
Tracy, can you chime in on that, please?
Sorry, Mike, I'm just trying to find that. I don't have the actual budget. You're looking at the budget booklet?
I'm actually looking at the loose pages, page 9.
That were, yeah, mailed to us.
Item 5.1, appendix 2.
Okay, appendix 2.
It's more of a format. I'll tell you where I'm going with this. What I'm looking for is the total expenditures for calendar year 2019, so I can compare that to what the proposed budget is. So actual to budget is what I'm looking for the total 2019 year. Am I missing that somewhere? Or?
Yeah, we don't normally have the actual in our budget booklet. We've never put that in, but I can. It's not an issue because we do report to you on a monthly basis or quarterly basis the financial information.
Yeah, that's a similar answer that I got from the County of Lambton. I can tell you that the City of Sarnia does in fact put that column in, and it is very helpful. So if there's no objections, I would appreciate that for the next budget year. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have a question?
Thank you, Chair. I'm looking at Appendix 1, and I know that's the one that's color-coded, was the loose information. And just under, when you get under some of these other projects, the flood and erosion control, Sarnia erosion control, Kenwick. So what color code do those budgets fall under? It looks like it's just white on my sheet, and then when I flip to the back of that page, there's education and information column that's also shows up white. And my question would be on the education and information. I see that's jumped by a total of $51,950. I'm just wondering, that's a substantial increase. Was that something that new that we're adding, or what does that cover?
You want me to handle that?
Yes, please.
Okay, through you, Mr. Chair. The white components under the are mostly WECI projects. That's why they're substantially higher, and they're based on special levy or negotiated with the municipality. So there's quite a bit going on in Sarnia and St. Clair. So those are those numbers there. They're not funded by general levy, but it could be a mix of matching federal dollars. So it was to color code it and put it into that the blocks at the top was kind of difficult, so that's why I left them white. Same with education and information. A majority of it is funded by the foundation and external donation. So if we look at, I don't believe I included that, there is a flat amount that comes from levy for education information. It's 90,000, and that has not changed. And the same for about, I can go back, I believe it's been about 4 years.
The other major change in that category would be that we have a RAP coordinator allocated to that department full-time for 2021, where we only had that RAP coordinator in place for about 3 months or 3.5 months in 2020.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Is there any other questions? Okay, go ahead, Brad.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. I just want to back up again, and I do support Councillor Stark regarding the actual amounts. He certainly knows my feeling about that, or showing the actual expenditures. The next thing I just wanted to clarify then, the actual budget going from 1,129,926 from 9640120 represents a 5.1% increase. Is that correct?
Do you want to handle that, Brian or Tracy?
I'll ask Tracy to deal with that.
Okay.
Well, yeah, while you're looking at that, and the other question I want to ask, and again, this is because it will certainly come back to my council, is in regards to, if I'm looking at it properly, if I look at the amount which includes the special projects, if I look at Petrolia as an example, including the special projects, is there something that offsets that, or is that the direct increase to the town of Petrolia?
Okay, so you're talking about the increase on Appendix 1?
I'm not sure what I got regarding, which includes the special projects, where you've got our levy plus the special projects are added on to that.
Okay, we're looking maybe at the budget page 8. I was asking about the total number you're indicating.
Yeah, the first part was just off the actual motion. The second part of the question, and the reason I'm asking that, if that is the assessment or the amount that's set to the town, that'll represent a 14.97% increase, which seems pretty difficult for me to justify, even though there's not a lot of increase in dollars, because we went from 26,981 in 2020 to 31,019 in 2021. And I just want to make sure I'm understanding that. Is that the actual amount that the town of Petrolia will have to pay?
Yes, and just as a side note, the special levy is specifically for the park that's in, or the CA that's in Petrolia, or that's and then the other part is the general levy. So depending on the, sorry,
I think there was the one I looked at said Highland Glen, and then there was something to do with the town of Petrolia, and that's fine. My question, I just want to be clear, is that the amount that the town of Petrolia is going to be billed? That's what I want to be sure, because that 14.97% increase is going to be really difficult for me to justify at a council meeting.
That would be
sorry, am I looking at something wrong here?
No, that would be the total.
Right, which would represent that 14.97% increase.
Correct.
Okay.
And part of that is because, sorry, go ahead.
No, I understand the breakdown. I just wanted to be sure. The other thing is I just took the actual amount and deducted it and worked out the percentage. I just want to make sure the actual recommendation increase across the board, though, is 5.1%. Is that correct? And that's taken the 1,129,926 and deduct the 9640, 120, which is $489,806 more than last year. I think it's correct. I just want to.
Yes, yes, that's correct.
Okay, but in my justification, I've got to go back to council and say, across the board, we're up 5%, but petroleum is going to have to pay 14.97%.
Okay.
I'm not comfortable that that's right, Brad.
Yes.
Something's
Well,
wrong
if
with that one.
you take the 2020 amount was 26,981. The total amount for 2021, which includes those special projects directly billed, which is for Highland Glen and Bridgeview, is 31,019 for a difference of $4,038, which represents a 14%. It's just going to be very difficult for me to justify that. That's all, Mr. Chair. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Just a question to carry on with that then, Brad. There's a factor there on assessment change too, so that would be factored in there as well, would it not?
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, so that might muddy the water a little bit, but there's some justification there. So
Is that because of our growth assessment, Mr. Chairman? Yeah.
apparently,
Our
yeah.
growth. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I don't think it's easy to sort of say everybody's going up the same amount because of that. Go ahead, Brian.
I just want to make sure that we're going to work with Brad to make sure that number is accurate.
Okay.
And much the same with any of you. If we haven't quite given you enough information to get that last number that you want, I will say that I hate using percentages based on the fact that when you can have a small increase, if you've got a giant budget and you get X number of dollars, or a large increase with a small budget and you can get even less dollars. But I do understand the kind of pressure you're under, that it is that number that your constituents want to see, and your other council members. So we will certainly make sure that that's correct, Brad, so that you're presenting the right data to council.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and could you do that for Chatham Kent as well? And then anybody else that wants that, maybe ask them to do that. So, Mark, you had a question? Did you have a question, Mark? Okay. Natty, you had a question?
No, would you get me that information for our municipality too, for Plimpton, Wyoming?
Okay. Anybody that wants that, maybe just talk to Brian or send him an email, and he'd be happy to do that. All right.
Yep.
Frank, go ahead. Frank Innes.
Could I suggest that, rather than, us having individually contacted, you send it to everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
We will do that.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, I don't see any other hands. Am I missing anybody? Go ahead, Frank. Kenneth?
Yeah, I guess just a comment. I mean, the dollar amounts seem reasonable, and the Highland Glen special assessment, I mean, certainly that adds an amount to it. I guess where it's difficult for us, and I guess you illustrate that at the end of the comparing Conservation Authority to Conservation Authority. We're also in Strathroy, Caradoc, part of the Lower Thames, and they're coming out with a 1% increase in their budget, which seems lower. But then if you measure dollars to dollars, the deal with St. Clair is better than it is with the Lower Thames. But that's not easy to illustrate when you're talking in percentages and stuff like that. So it's a bit of a challenge, and I appreciate the extra information on the other conservation authorities. But yeah, initially just looking at it, the increase from St. Clair would be much higher than it's going to be for the Lower Thames, and that means a bit of talking on our part. So.
Okay, is there any other comments, questions? I don't see anybody. So is there anybody opposed? Go ahead, Brad. You're opposed?
Yeah, I'm just opposed to the overall 5.1. I'd feel a lot better if we could get it down around that 3% or something, but that's just my opinion, Mr. Chair.
Okay, and Mike, you're opposing?
I'm opposed based upon the inclusion of Highland Glen, which is consistent with my previous votes. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other opposed? So it's carried with 2 opposed. Thank you. Item number 6, that the Board of Directors acknowledges the report dated October the 9th, 2020 on the 2021 to 2025 McHugh Agricultural Lease results. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Steve Miller and Lori Scott. Okay, any questions? Mike, go ahead.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
With respect to the lease rates, the 2 questions. One, the first right of refusal, which we eliminated, did it end up being the existing person operating? Did they win the election or win the quotes?
Brian, can you answer that, please?
I can. We actually have quite a few changes there. So a lot of the properties will be going to new lessees. And so they, in several cases, they were not the highest bidder, that being the current tenants were not the highest bidders.
Thank you. And I presume that's a good news story. The second question relative to that is the prices are quoted as price per acre. Is that per year, per month? What is it?
That is per year.
So for instance, $236.50 is the lease rate for the entire year?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Is that it, Mike?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Aaron? Did you have a question? Sorry, okay. Steve Miller, did you have a question?
No, sorry, I did not.
Okay, Larry, go ahead.
I did. I wonder if there's some interpretation. It says here the majority of the leased land tendered higher than the previous period. Do we attribute that to the first right of refusal change, or is it something going on in the marketplace for leases and farmland in general?
And do you want to address that, please?
I would say that it had little to do with the change in first right of refusal. It's more the financial climate out there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Frank Nemchek.
Yeah, like these price for this rent is real good, eh? And that's because the price of beans and corn is so high. I don't see the Campbell Park land. What they get for that?
We held that one out, did not send out the package, but I think Greg is online with us, and Greg has prepared a report. Greg, can you chime in and give us the results for the conservation area properties?
Ryan, I don't think Greg is with us.
Okay, maybe Brian was supposed to do that. I'm sorry, Frank.
I just wonder what the Campbell Park land went for.
Okay, can Brian get back to you?
Yeah,
And
that'd be good.
I'll go to Mark then.
I just wondered how many acres of land are, like, it doesn't say here with all these different properties how many acres are involved. I was just kind of curious, how many acres are we talking about leasing out here?
Kim, can you chime in on that, please?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Foss. The total acres of agriculture land is 1,053 acres. So the previous question of, $235.50 per acre, that is a per acre price. So that is times the total acres for that piece of land for the annual. So it's 1,053 acres.
Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Brian.
If I may, the Campbell Properties, Jake Hills was the top bidder at 185.75.
And what were the other two bids under it?
There was a bid at 120, and Greg's only given me the top two bids here, unfortunately. I don't know that there was more than two.
You don't know who that was from, do you?
Jason
Jason Nichols?
Yep.
Okay, that's the guy you had before.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and I do believe he went back in something similar to what it was before. So that's almost a 50% increase in the revenue on those acres.
So when do they get this land? Right away or January 1st or what?
Tim, do you want to give me the statement that we've put in there, because it is specific to when a crop comes off versus first of the year, but we've got the same statement in both leases. Tim?
Yes, so it's the lease agreement ends when the final crop is off or January 1st. So there are, I guess, from the McHugh side, we certainly have some corn that's still on, but the wheat is off, the beans are off. So if someone wanted on that property now, we would certainly just verify with the current person that it's okay that the new tenant get on there. But it's worded as when the final crop is off or January 1st.
So when Jake Hills there, some of that land had red clover in it, and he wants to go in there and plow that. Can he go in there and plow that now, or does he have to get permission?
I would think he could go in there and plow it. But again, he would probably talk to Greg about that and say, look, I want to get that plowed up and ready to go for the spring. Can I get in there? Certainly I would go on the land. So I have had people talk to me about doing some improvements this fall to get it ready for the spring. And as far as the outgoing tenant, if there's really no concerns, then I will certainly let people on there ahead of time because the crop is off.
Okay, thanks, Tim.
Okay, I don't see any other hands. Have I missed any? Okay, go ahead, Frank. Kenneth.
Yeah, I just wondered again for the future on this type of report, whether you can include the number of acres and then the total number of dollars that are involved as well, and total those all up, because again, that would give us sort of a second balance point, I guess, to look for in the budget for revenues coming off of this type of properties as well. So I know it's a bit more work, but at least it's easier for us to follow. And just again, a question on this: is this land owned by the Conservation Authority that's rented, or the foundation? And I guess because I don't totally understand the foundation, how is the foundation and its budget connected to the authority, and how does that work, and who sets their budget and all that kind of stuff? So,
Can I answer that, Brian, please?
Certainly. Well, we can definitely include some additional information, Frank. That's not a concern at all. This does not include the foundation rental properties. They are separate. They are agreed to on a contract with the foundation. The three parcels that they have, one of which is under a long-term lease. The other two have gone out, and again, we've seen an increase in those properties, and that will go to the board of directors of the foundation in October. Last week. Did go last week. I'm sorry. So they approved those agreements are with them and signed under the president. So they get that revenue directly into their budget.
Just to follow up on that, the foundation also took out the clause where the highest or the previous leaser could match the top price, and they took that clause out just as we did. So So we're all on the same page as far as that goes as well. So I don't see any other hands. Okay, go ahead, Frank Kennis. Sorry.
Just a follow up on that, on the foundation, like who ultimately controls the foundation yeah, I mean, are they, maybe I'm stumbling over words here, but is there, like, does this board have any say or control over the foundation or the revenues or assets of the Conservation Authority, or I mean of the foundation? Yeah, yeah, maybe I need a longer lesson on it someday, but I just would like to understand, I guess, the connection between the two. So.
Can you do that, Brian?
I can certainly do that. And Frank, anytime you want to meet over coffee or with something we can drink through a straw in our mask, we can go over this at length. The foundation is an arm's length organization separate from the authority. We have to maintain that in order for our charitable status work, et cetera, et cetera. There is a full board of directors on which Joe sits, which has a president and a vice president, secretary treasurer, basically with similar format. It does have a couple of retired board members that are sitting on there as well. They do control their own budget. They do control the properties, etc. They wish to be to more or less act to assist the authority in their funding requests. So certainly staff prepare a myriad of reports for them regarding where different projects are at that they have funded in the past, whether they're new, old projects, etc. Some of those requests went forward at our meeting with the foundation last week, and we certainly make requests on behalf of the authority throughout the year when and if necessary, even beyond the budget.
Does that answer your question, Frank?
Yeah, kind of. I guess I'll follow up with Brian and have a longer discussion, because I guess ultimately, what's the foundation for, and if it's not to benefit the Conservation Authority, yeah, why does it exist, I guess? So, and maybe that's a bad question to ask, but I guess I don't understand at this point, so.
Okay, that's fine. You and Brian can visit on that. And anyone else that has probably questions or concerns regarding that or anything else can approach Brian. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say, Frank, that's their only purpose. The only objective of the foundation is to assist the authority, be it financially, be it by possessing lands. Certainly, I would say that there's no question there was a major concern in the community and within the authority board multiple years ago about if the province at the time was going to strip conservation authorities back, then what was going to happen to all these properties, especially the ones that we had donated to us. And therefore, we've been directing donors to provide any lands that they're donating directly to the authority, not coming through or directly to the foundation, not coming to the authority, so that there was some control rather than potentially having it exposed to the province dispensing with it, etc. So really those are the only two functions of the foundation, is to fundraise and support the authority programs as well as hold land.
There you go. I think you're frozen there for a minute, everybody. So Larry, go ahead.
My limited exposure at Conservation Ontario, but I can tell you that I have witnessed other Conservation Authority officials coming up to us to inquire about our foundation. The reputation is well known. and it is held in very high regard. In fact, other conservation authorities are, in my experience at Conservation Ontario, are looking for information on how we do it, because it has been so successful and that the word has gotten around to much of the province in that regard. That's a personal observation.
Yep, thanks, Larry. Okay, I don't see any other hands. Have I missed anyone? Sorry, Pat, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to ask one question under the lease arrangement. That is for 5 full years, this contract, okay? And yeah, it'd be nice to find out where that total revenue shows up and where it as a budget item, the revenue is from that. So I believe Brian's going to address that. So thank you.
Okay. Is there any others that I haven't recognized? Okay, I'll put it to a vote. Is there any opposed to the motion? Seeing none, the motion's carried.
Nicely done.
Okay, going to new business. Does anyone have any business they'd like to bring up? Go ahead, Larry.
I'd just like to inquire about with the season advancing here now. I know we kind of worked our way gradually into the camping season at our 3 areas, and we had some issues with snowbirds and other things like that along the way. And we're fairly successful as things turned out by June and July to get some camping in. I wonder the transition out of the camping season now, where we stand in that regard.
Brian, go ahead.
Thank you. I can say that we're focused at the end line at this point. Finish line is this weekend, so all the camping activities will be ceasing as of Sunday. Most of our, we've had, with the closing early on, we did have a lot of campers elect to come in at a different time, either during the week or in later weekends. So we have had a pretty high or pretty low vacancy rate on the available sites through most of the year, right into the fall here. Maybe not the last couple of weeks so much, which were an extension of the normal season. But at this point, we haven't had any issues as far as what do you call them, reverse snowbirds, or the unmigrated snowbirds that might be dealing with a housing situation. I think they've been able to look after those situations. Certainly that was of discussion with some of the CAs with campgrounds, but I think we've had our campers find other locations for this winter as they're unable to travel.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mike.
On that same topic, I noticed, and not all of you will be privy to this, but there was a notation in the Lambton County Emergency Management Group who made reference to their input into snowbirds and the camping issue. Has there been cross communication with Lambton County Emergency Committee on that?
Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I assume so, Mike, but I can say that it didn't go through me. But I expect that Greg has been in communication with them. I will make sure that he has upon his return.
Yeah, I don't want the left hand not knowing what the right hand is doing.
Good, absolutely.
Pat, did you have a story?
Yeah, just a follow up on the campgrounds. Like, do the people that leave their trailers there year round, is there access to the campgrounds so they can go in to check them out at their leisure?
There certainly are. The gates are closed to all those camping areas so that we don't have the wrong people in there. But there is parking at each one of the sites, even in front of the gate. which should be able to access on foot into all the campground areas.
Thank you.
Lori, do you have a question?
Just wanted to give a compliment to this package that we got. I thought it was pretty good. I was quite impressed with it when I read it. And other than the few additions that people have asked for to be added to next year's package, I think it's great.
I agree. Thank you. I don't see any other hands or. So I guess I'm looking for the last motion that we adjourn to the next regular meeting. And I have a mover, Pat, a seconder is Dan McMillan. Is there any objections? Seeing none, thank you very much. I think things went relatively smooth today. I wasn't sure how much time it would take. And Betty Ann, I think you're going to get to your pretty early. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate it.